The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie is a 1961 novella by the Scottish author Muriel Spark. It had previously been published in instalments in the New Yorker. For such a short book, there's an awful lot going on. Miss Jean Brodie is a teacher in what would now be called a girls' primary school. She habitually introduces herself with the words, "I am in my prime." She's in charge of a group of 10-year-olds for whom she devises a creative curriculum. She eventually identifies an elite group of half a dozen girls who, because of their talents, deserve her special attention. These 6 become known as the Brodie set. As the boundaries between Miss Brodie's personal and professional life begin to dissolve, they're drawn into her romantic liaisons. For them, Miss Brodie becomes something more than a teacher, and when they leave for secondary school, they retain their identity as her set. Little by little, however, they begin to outgrow her. It's an excellent story, and so far it might remind some people of the Dead Poets Society, a 1989 film in which an English teacher arrives at a New England college armed with a radical approach to the curriculum, or Freedom Writers, a 2007 film with the same premise. The difference is that the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie is set in the 1930s and the protagonist is a fascist. She's convinced that if you're special, which she is, and as the individual members of her set are, then you're not required to respect conventional moral boundaries. She praises Mussolini, and after the war she calls Hitler naughty. In some ways she's rather like a cult leader, although Muriel Spark heavily conceals this from the reader till late on. What makes the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie so great is that its protagonist lives by a code which has appealed to most people at some point in their lives. Devil-may-care, unconventional, living life to the full, inspiring others, heroic. Had she been in her prime in the 1950s, she might have been a beat. A decade later, a hippie. At this point in history, 2022 we're beginning to look anew at some of the old political labels. 20 years ago, we all thought we knew what right and left meant. Nowadays, it's perfectly possible, perhaps even the norm, for a countercultural rebel to be an extreme right-winger. Look at the QAnon shaman, for example. The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie is a book for our times.